Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, the World Bank Group is actually a group of 5 international organizations, namely the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or IBRD, the International Development Association, or IDA, where you get grant funding, the International Finance Corporation, or IFC, the Multilateral Investment Credit Agency, or MIGA, and the International Center for Settlement for Investment Dispute, ICSID. Mr. Speaker, sir, the question actually is somewhat misplaced because there's no $1 billion loan to government. There is the World Bank Country Partnership Framework which is available. It's for public consumption. In that, Mr. Speaker, sir, you will see that this country partnership program is over a period of 4 years. And the World Bank's support is the $1 billion support, of which, Mr. Speaker, sir, $210 million is directly by way of loans to government, 210 US dollars. And Mr. Speaker, sir, they are in the areas of the social protection, COVID-19 response and system development project, the economic and climate resilience development policy operation, the catastrophe drawdown, Vanuatu tourism development project, because we have been, even prior to COVID-19, we believe that Vanuatu is completely underutilized, and indeed it can serve as a second, what we call a redundancy area for, should something happen, dramatic happen in Viti Levu and planes cannot land, we should have an international airport on the other island. Vanuatu is not that much smaller than Viti Levu. And the Fiji second economic and climate resilience development policy operation. This is 210 million Fijian dollars, Mr. Speaker, sir. 210 million US dollars, which is about 400 million Fijian dollars. And then the balance, Mr. Speaker, sir, is the $300 million indicative amount that the World Bank through IFC has expressed for potential private sector funding, where they participate by either way of equity in various projects, or they actually can lend directly. IFC, as anybody who knows about the machinations within the World Bank framework, IFC does not lend money to governments. It's the World Bank does. But IFC does actually lend to the private sector. IFC does participate in equity participation. So, for example, the Vision Group, when it was listed, IFC actually participated in that. They actually held some shares in it. And that's what they normally do to prop up organizations. So that, Mr. Speaker, sir, is in a nutshell the $1 billion country partnership framework. And there was, in fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, an official press release that was put out by the World Bank. And you will note, Mr. Speaker, sir, that again it reconfirms or reiterates what I've just said in respect of the facility that's been provided both to government and also to the private sector. What, Mr. Speaker, sir, before I sit down for any supplementary questions, we are constantly trying to get the World Bank to give us more funding through IDA. IDA, Mr. Speaker, sir, entails very concessional loan terms, incurring a service charge of 0.75% and a repayment period of 40 years, including a 10-year grace period. So it's less than 1%. You can imagine a period of 40 years, obviously, you may perhaps be in fact paying less than what you borrowed. Ordinarily, the other loans are through the IBRD and they're non-concessional, and they charge a variable interest rate, LIBOR, which have been historically low with repayments over a period of 15 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I thank the Honourable Attorney General. Honourable Nicola Waikula, you have the floor, sir.
Will the government be using any of this money to help Fiji Airways in its loan repayments?
Honourable Attorney General, you have the floor.
No, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honourable
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the experience regarding Fiji Road Authority on contract worth 40 million, which was cancelled due to non-compliance of the super-rated road upgrading project, and also this one in terms of the capacity to implement documentation extraction, can the Honorable Minister of Economy explain how the current capacity will be able to manage this particular arrangement? Thank you.
Honorable Attorney General, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, the honourable member's question actually is fundamentally flawed because it's premised on a notion that the funding was withdrawn from FRA because of non-compliance, which is completely incorrect. I actually did not want to comment on the previous motion regarding the Auditor General's office, but there's a number of issues in respect of how they have actually been arriving at various conclusions. In that particular instance, if the honourable member stopped reading the Fiji Times, that the reason why the funding, and that was through ADB, it was not World Bank, it was ADB, and the reason why that funding was withdrawn was because FRA and ADB agreed for that funding to be withdrawn. There is a particular challenge that we have actually been having, in particular with ADB and some of the other funding agencies, where they go for the cheapest price. So just because a company comes along and puts in a tender and says that they'll build a particular stretch of a road at the cheapest price, what our argument is, it should not necessarily be awarded to them. Because you have to look at the track record, the capacity to be able to deliver the particular project at a quality level, so we don't actually have to go back and fix up these roads within 3 or 4 months' time, or we get variations to contract, which actually becomes a lot more expensive. So there is a particular project, the ADB, at that point in time, where if you meet the minimum qualifications, they don't look at other technical aspects, they give it to the cheapest one. So that's the reason why. And we also said the scope needs to increase or be widened when you do the technical assessments. So we had agreed that that cannot, we won't draw down those funds, and that's the reason, and unfortunately, the Auditor General's office, again, hurried to a conclusion which was actually not correct. So in respect of the question regarding this, of course, as I highlighted, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honourable Member, as I highlighted earlier on, we're looking at drawing down funds for our social protection, COVID-19 response and system development project. We are also looking at for the climate resilience development policy operation. Please remember, this $210 million US is over a period of 4 years. Country partnership is over 4 years. And of course, the Vulnerable Tourism Development Project, things have slightly slowed down there, but we had been, as you know, talked about issues about looking at building finding a site with a longer runway. We eventually can land 737s. At the moment, our ATR 72 can't even get on full load at the current Wailevu site. You just can't take it. Runway is not long enough. It's built between the bend of one river. And of course, we have the Economic and Climate Resilience Development Policy operation. So we have the capacity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.